Howdy, all you delicious people! I'm here to review The Host from 2006. So, I had gone on to find this movie in a plethora of different apps, but darn fact, I could not find it dubbed over in English. So, I went on to just Google and typed The Host 2006 English dubbed DUB dub. And the first thing that came up was this thing that said Internet Archive. Clicked onto that, watched this movie dubbed over in English, and voila, watch said film. So, if you want no opinion upon this film and you want to check this out for yourself, by golly, there's where you can go on and do so. So you can avoid my whole opinion about this film. But regardless, I'm to go on and talk about this movie anyways. So, The Host. Immediately what came to mind while watching this is that the monster kind of looks similar to the monster in the movie Deep Rising, as far as just the way it looks. But anyways, The Host is to be a monster movie that is to be a story where we have these doctors dumping out these jars of tons and tons of jars of formaldehyde into this sink that leads to the Hans River, which then ends up within this river mutating its amphibian-ish like life to then create this tadpole thing that is to be called a guamole. So we go on to have a transition here to this family that is to have this just kind of snack shop, and their last names are to all to be Park, so they're the Park family. I don't know what it is with every single one of these foreign films that every single family has to have, or most of the families have to have the name Park in it. Like, I would go on and watch so many of these other things, and I would see that Park is just the most common name. I don't know why, but it is, strangely. I don't know why that's so common. But so, or that's just the go-to movie name. I don't know. I don't get it. But anyways, so what ends up happening is Kong Do, main character here, is to seemingly be finding out this Guamole monster running through the town, and then finding his daughter and hoping that the two of them are going to run off to avoid this thing. And Kong Du here ends up making an accident by grabbing the wrong person and chasing off. And as the father is to notice that the daughter is to go on and be quite a distance away from him, the monster is to grab his daughter and run off with it, to where Kong Du is chasing after this thing, trying to get his daughter back, realizing that he had made this mistake. So the rest of the movie after this point ends up going on to have the Kong Du family, for how close they were to this monster, get quarantined off, eventually having them also trying to figure out where this daughter is, where she is to be held, realizing that she is still alive. They have to find her now. And she is in this underground hole, it seems, that she cannot really, up until a certain point, try and get out of. And so all about this movie is to try to reunite this family. And so this leads this story to go on uh to have this family face off against these monsters to try and find this girl, and that's what the story is. We come to find the Guamoles. They're to go on and consume people. I think what is to actually happen with these monsters is that these monsters go on and keep these people in their digestive tract. It's kind of like in the one Star Wars movie, how like there's like the monster that's in the ground that like takes forever to digest somebody. It's kind of the same similar thing here, but in the Guamol's case, what they do is they digest someone and then eventually take them to this hole to spit them back out because they're going to consume them later once they found a better thing to digest and hold within their body to then uh, have us to be revealed that at some points that when this monster is seemingly done digesting a person, it spits its bones back out. So within this film, there is some comedy that goes on within this film. There is at some points where I try back and forth in my brain to figure out if a lot more things were to actually be funny within this film, and I am to just be racking my brain of whether they were funny or not, and just I'm like I don't think they were. I think they were supposed to be serious. But so but either way, you can kind of look back on it and just be like, well, wait a minute, like that part was dumb, but wait a minute, was it supposed to be funny also? Anyways, so we go on through this movie, and we also have supposedly a virus that is occurring through people, but then they go on and later state within the movie that the whole virus thing is to actually just be a lie. So I was like, was it a weird scare tactic, or what was the virus part of this film? But so, anyways, the last bit of this is to really, in all honesty, say that this movie, the only painful thing about it is the later and later that this movie occurs. Because, like, you really start to see the painting on the wall that, like, the further and further this goes about being an existing thing, like, the more that, like, there's really nothing going on, or, like, what is going on is just so boring that it's just biting for time because they just don't have enough monster stuff that they can do with this movie because of the budget of this film, because they go on and explain how much money they had to spend on doing CGI stuff, and also there actually being a legitimate monster that they used in this movie at some certain points. There is actually some aspects of this movie with this monster that I actually do find to actually be just scary at points when we have the monster just kind of just coming into frame and you're like, whoa, what the heck? Or also you have like the build up, the monster kind of just running behind somebody and gonna go on and get to them. It's like, okay, how is that gonna all go down the way it does? Ooh, let's see that. That's what made this aspect of the movie just interesting to just kind of see those shots. But yeah, but like the longer and longer this movie goes about, I feel eventually just the more painful and just dull the story becomes. But if you just have 2 hours to kill, then by all means check out The Host. Maybe you'll go on and see this movie drastically differently than I did. But at the end of the day, my overall grading is like, I want to say that this movie is like painfully just fine in my opinion. Like, I would probably go on and say that this is the one movie where I, in my opinion, just wanted to just say that it's kind of just a bad film. But like, I think half of it is just a bad movie. I feel that the first half is just rather interesting. It uh, just is to be uh, painful to watch in its second half. And so, with that said, yeah, this movie is just painfully fine. But in time, maybe you want to go on and check out this movie anyways, or watch the movie Deep Rising, because that could go on and just be a thrill and chill ride of some sorts. And maybe I'll probably go on and check out Deep Rising if I find out that there is to be justifyingly uh, any real true interest in a movie like that, or people like, yeah, check out Deep Rising. I will probably at some points, hopefully, make my way into watching monster movies, like big, huge monster movies, stuff like that. Like, um, I want to try to avoid as much as possible to do ones that I feel it's just kind of just like thinking that, well, obviously this is like the go-to one. Like, I don't want to do the Dwayne the Rock. I don't want to go on and be forced to do the Dwayne the Rock Johnson movie Rampage just to think that that may get some clicks or some views or whatever. Um, but there are obviously some, I feel, some interesting monster movies that I hope to not have to feel just obligated to watch, even though I won't be happy about them. Um, because that is honestly at some points what I do here, sadly. There are at some points, there are movies that I obviously just wanted to go on and see. The Host is actually one of them. Um, because I had gone on at one point randomly and saw somebody talk about this movie and how they enjoyed it. I was like, well, maybe I'll check that out one day. And then finally, I was to just sit down and be like, you know what? I always just kind of want to see this movie. So let's figure out a way to actually watch it. And then finally, I sat down, figured out a way to see it. And so I was glad that I was to at least um, just get something off of my list of movies that I kind of always wanted to actually go into, and The Host was one of them. Regardless how it may end up being that no one will give a about a movie like this, still, at least I got to see this, so I'm happy about that. Regardless of the ultimate decision of like, or the ultimate uh, aspect of me actually watching this movie. So it's just there's some positive coming out of this. So let me know in the comments below what is to be your favorite monster film. Maybe I've probably seen it on this channel. Maybe I've reviewed it, and maybe you can go on and check it out. I don't think I've done a lot of monster movies, and maybe I actually should. Because there may be actually some good Godzilla films, or some good King Kong movies, or some things here and there that I probably should dare say actually see in my life. I was to have gone on and seen the original Godzilla versus King Kong movie, and I bizarrely enjoyed that. But eventually, the later that movie kind of gets, there's just kind of some odd things that that movie tries to do. But let me know in the comments below what is to be your favorite monster film, because at the end of the day, it could probably help me justify watching that as well. And hopefully it may get a view, or hopefully it may get disinterest. I don't know. But anyways, either way, it does help out the comment section and the video and the channel by doing any number of things that you were to go on and logically have a number of people force down your throat to do. I'm to just say, if you want to do it, just go on ahead. It just helps me to figure out what the heck I'm going to do next here. Because at some point I will probably like throughout the days of me just consistently coming up with some kind of idea of something to do on the channel. Eventually, I may run out of stuff, so a list is always to be greatly appreciated. Yeah, let's go on and let's get into fully talking about and break down to this film, because I think it's about that time to go into the song and dance that I usually go on and do. Because without further ado, regardless of how I felt about this movie, and regardless of how you are to probably have interest or disinterest about this film, I am to go on and break down it anyways, because I do that with every single one of these films, regardless of the length that it actually takes to logically be able to figure that out. That is to take widely too long for me to strongly talk this film out. So with that said, it is spoiler time. It's about that time. We can spoil this movie. Let me know whatever you'd like to just say in the comments. Maybe it's gibberish. Maybe it's logical, thought-provoking things. Maybe at the end of the day, it'll be the one comment that'll go on and help this channel for what I'm going to possibly partake in the future of doing things and such and whatever. I have no idea what I'm saying right now. I'm just saying gibberish because I need to go on and pause this video here to get out my notes or my cast list or whatever. I insist to people help me figure out how to talk about this film because that would greatly be helpful for me to go on and have me do any number of those things. In all honesty, there was no subtitles through the things that I'd gone on and watched today, so I may have to go on and just be much more vague about a lot of stuff and try to push through this review as quickly as I can. Also, uh, uh, try to remember as best as I can the moments of which that are to go on and be the laugh and the fun. There is to be at one point where there is to be a line where the grandfather goes on and says, like, when my son farted, I could tell what mood he was in. And I'm like, okay, all right. So, with that said, let's pause here. Let's get the review out and let's do this. All right, so the very beginning of this film, spoilers everybody, we have a U.S. doctor. He's just called U.S. Doctor. I don't know why. He's the guy who is Herschel in The Walking Dead, or a number of other things that I'm sure will probably go on and jog anyone's memory for those of you that know this actor who has passed away, sadly. Anyways, so we have this U.S. doctor that is trying to a guy, I believe his name is Dr. Kim. And so this U.S. doctor goes on and states that it seems that a number of these jars all have dust on it, and so this guy ends up hating dust. And so these jars are to go on and all say the words formaldehyde on them. And so this U.S. doctor turns to Dr. Kim and like, you know how I hate dust? So I want you to get rid of every single one of these jars and pour them into this sink. And so the doctor turns to the other doctor. It's like, well, excuse me, sir, but like, if we pour all of these jars or all these jugs into this sink, it'll go into the Hans River. And the doctor's like, yeah, go ahead, do it. Just do it. Just go on ahead. So this doctor is pouring all these things down the sink, and we see like a huge, and I mean huge, and I mean freaking huge amount of jars that are being all displayed here that have been opened, poured into the sink, and I am like, wow, that is a lot of stuff. So we then go to June 2006, so this is X number of years ago now, in the Hans River. So we have these two fishermen, they're going on, and they have one of them who has this cup, and he is to notice this thing, and he turns to his other fishermen, and it's like, hey, do you know what this thing is? And they're like, no, we have no idea. And so all of a sudden, this thing is to kind of lunge out at them, and from what is in this cup, and they're like, oh man, like it's a good thing that we didn't go on and we didn't have that thing attack us or whatever. And like, yeah, and also like the guy almost lost his cup, heaven forbid, right? So the next thing we end up going on and seeing is a guy is to be on this bridge, deciding to almost do himself in, to jump off this bridge, to die. There seems to be two people that are running and chasing to try to have this man not be this thing called dead. So as this guy is going on, looking down, contemplating his life, he is to look within the water to realize how black this water is. Oddly enough, there seems to be some blackness within this water. And so this guy obviously goes on to spot this. He talks about it with the two guys that are alongside of him. And in all honesty, the two men turn to him and state how weird or crazy he is. And so he dunks himself in the water and dies. The next thing we see here is Kong Du. He is to be fallen asleep at this snack shop. We all of a sudden have this one kid who it seems to be launching out his hand, tempted to steal something, and so he doesn't. So luckily, his father, I think, grabs him and just, hey man, let's go. So Kong Doo's father ends up noticing a woman wanting to buy something. So Kong Doo's father ends up going on. His name is actually Hey Pong. Hey Pong. I'm just gonna call him Park because that's probably easier. Park here goes on to uh, be exchanging this woman for snacky goods. So he ends up realizing that he had change somewhere, and so coincidentally, the place that there was change was actually exactly where Bong or Kong uh, Kong Du, my bad. Kong Du had placed his head. So the father, Park, shoves the guy's head out of the way and gets the change, and then reimburses the girl the difference. So we go on to have Kong Du that is to finally wake up after hearing a kid talking, and he immediately thinks that it is to go on and actually be his daughter, and it isn't. Uh, his daughter is to go on and be uh, Hung Se Seo. Oh my god. No, wait, Hung Seo. So I legitimately had the pronunciation of her name on a thing somewhere. I'm like, okay, where exactly is it? So Hong Seo. So Gongdu goes on after Park is to tell him to cook some squid for some people that are kind of waiting for it, as there seems to be uh, a place where they have kind of reserved places for these people to get certain specific foods. So Kongdu is cooking this squid and he rips off one of the legs and he decides to start to eat it himself. So Kongdu's daughter Hung Seo ends up coming into frame here, and she talks about how her uncle had made it to her school, and of course her uncle is a drunk. And she also goes on and talks about how her cell phone is to be just so janky and it doesn't quite work. So both Kung Du and his daughter make their way while Park is cooking the squid. They go inside and they make their way into watching some telly, some TV. And they end up wanting to go on and seeing the crossbow semifinals because, of course, one of their family members is to be an archer and she's in this contest. And so we have Gongdu or Kongdu that goes on and gives his own daughter a beer to drink. And like it's kind of interesting how this daughter is like, I'm probably not old enough to drink this. Like, I just drink it anyways. So like I thought that was kind of stupid. So Park ends up pulling Kongdu aside and wants to talk to him. So because what happened is that Park ends up giving these people an order, and they notice that one of the squid legs is missing. So Park confronts Kung Du about it, and Kung Du ends up giving Park this leg, and so it's like, okay, all right. So Kongdu ends up bringing this order to these people. So all these people are over by the Hans River. So they go on and realize by the bridge there seems to be an unusual thing that they don't quite understand exactly what this thing is. They think it could be some mechanical equipment of some kind, or maybe it's some kind of unusual animal that has just cropped up. They don't quite understand what it is, but it's hanging upside down on this bridge, and they're just kind of very baffled and confused of what exactly it is. So both Park and his granddaughter are watching the archery semifinals, and they see their family member here go on and end up making it to third place. This family member ends up going on and having the name of Namju, I believe is her name. Namju. Either way, it's probably gonna be a name I'm gonna butcher throughout this whole entire thing. So, or probably have a tough time probably remembering it, because of course I would. So anyways, we make our way back to the bridge here. And whatever this animal is to go on and be, which ends up being the Gomol, splooshes into the water. And so, as under the water this Gomol is to be swimming, the people that are looking at it within, seeing it into the more darkness of the water, are to go on and just be like, hey, that thing, all right, like, let's go on and let's just chuck a bunch of stuff at it and see what it does. Let's throw beer at it. Let's throw our food at it. Let's feed it. So they go on and they end up doing that. And then all of a sudden, Kongdu turns and notices that there is something else coming off close to them in the distance. And we realize that this is another Gomol that is making its way, thrusting through these people. So that then in turn has Kongdu and a number of these people all running chaotically because they're like, what the heck is going on here? So we come to find out that this monster is consuming people or killing people, and so Kongdu is starting to run around this area to try and figure out a way to get around this monster being present there. And so what ends up happening is that there's this one girl who is taking this this thing, and she's kind of fixing her nails, and she has headphones on. She all of a sudden goes and she turns her head to all of a sudden have this monster like smacking her, and I think she gets dragged just through the grass here. So the Gomol goes on and just starts rampaging through these streets. We're seeing people on the train, and they're watching this monster just kind of go through the town, and they're like, oh yeah, like, next up, so-and-so river location. So we would have at one point one woman who makes her way through seemingly this like kind of like I would say like it's a house trailer. Like it's like, if you guys are to know like the double wide trailers that like they're houses that are like on cinder block bricks, and like they could be obviously like driven away, like the double wides and stuff like that. So like this little house here is just kind of sitting underneath this bridge. And so this woman goes running into this house, and the monster follows her. So we go on to have at one half of this this trailer, we're having these people desperate to try and get out of this trailer because the monster is on the other side of it. So both Gong Du and this white guy who's blonde, I have no idea what his name is, they desperately try to help these people escape from this trailer because it seems that the one door on the opposite side is kind of chained up. So Kongdu and blonde guy, uh, they go on and they free these people and they try to make their way out of this trailer. They crazily start running, and so the Guomul goes on and starts to make its way through the town, trying to go on and trying to further attack people. Right around, I think these trailer trucks, or these semi trucks. So the blonde white guy, I have no idea who this guy is. He grabs this tile, this kind of brick-like tile, and it's pretty hefty in weight. And so he takes this item and he chucks it to hit the Guomul, but like this isn't quite heavy enough to do real damage against this monster. So as this monster is making its way through these semis, what they end up finding is they find this this Gang Du and this blonde white guy. They find this traffic sign that at the bottom of it has this like cement brick, this hefty cement brick. And so Gangdu grabs the sign, and the blonde white guy grabs the heavier part and is to lift it up. And so what they do is, as the monster is in between these semis, they fling this cinder block thing to throw it on to the monster to try and hope that that may do some significant damage to this. And the monster ends up just kind of turning around with its mouth full of a half-eaten person. And so what ends up happening is Kong Du ends up sliding underneath one of the semis, and the monster ends up going on and attacking and consuming the blonde white guy. So Gong Du in return tries to find that sign again that had that hefty cement block on it, and he tries to grab it and chuck it onto the monster again, hoping that is going to do some kind of damage to this monster, as he then is able to then lift it and sling it onto this monster. So we again have both Park and his granddaughter watching Namju doing archery. So the daughter, Nanseo, I'm gonna butcher that name, Hanseo, makes her way out of the snack bar, or the snack shop, and is to all of a sudden notice a beer that seemingly is having a hole in it and it's spraying out. All of a sudden, we have Jung Du that grabs his daughter and starts running off with her. At one point, a lot of people start to fall over, and Kong Du is one of them. And so Kong Du tries to figure out where his daughter is, and so he grabs behind him without really looking back. And so Kong Du starts running, and then all of a sudden he finally does look behind him, and he realizes that he had grabbed some other young girl that looks similar to his daughter but isn't the same, and some other guy randomly grabs this young girl, and then they run off. So Kong Du is looking for where his daughter is. All of a sudden, he sees said daughter, and she is standing back up, and the monster is making its way to her, like, yeah, I'm gonna come and get you. Yeah, I'm gonna just be trotting my way, like, you better believe it. So, what ends up happening is the monster's tail grabs uh, Han Seo, and the two of them make their way into the Hans River, Kasploosh, and we have Park opening this door. He's like, like looking, poking out. It's very weird, very strange. So Kongdu goes on and chases after this monster, jumping into the Hans River, hoping that he can figure out a way to have this monster quit the grasping of his daughter. And so he jumps in the water after her, and eventually this leads to the monster just carrying off um, with Kong Du's daughter. It's sad. So the next thing we see here is Kong Du going on, and he's looking at at his bowl that has a bunch of change here. At some point, he was going to go on and take this bowl of change, and he was going to give it to his daughter so that way he can give her a new cell phone. But sadly, like, since chaos has ensued here, this change is to possibly used for other things. So it seems because of the Guamols that this town is to be evacuated, it seems. So we have a number of people that have all made their way to this memorial. So Namju ends up making her way to this memorial with her third place award, and finding out that a picture of her relative, who is Han Seo, is to be present upon this memorial. So Han Seo is to go on and be fairly upset. The Park family is to realize that Nanju is here, and so they say it's like, well, hey, like they say that Namju had brought the award specifically for Han Seo, and they all start crying, and so we all of a sudden have uh, the drunken uncle that ends up coming into the fray here, who I believe is Namil. And so Namil ends up swinging a bit of drink here, which I'm like, is this the perfect time for him to actually be drunk right now? I don't think it really is. But I guess this just says that this guy's a drunk, and so he's going to be a drunk every time, anyways. So as all of them are mourning the loss of this daughter, Namil grabs Kung Du, and as he's just kind of hovered over this table in mourning, Namil grabs the guy and just thrusts him onto the ground in an almost comedic-like fashion, and then he mourns over Han Seo. So as Namil goes on and is to be mourning, like there's to be consistent the rest of the Park family that like grabs onto him and he like thrusts them away, and like this is to seemingly be done in a, almost what I would say comedic fashion, it seems, in my opinion. And then like bizarrely the whole entire family all thrusts to the ground, as bizarrely there are people around them taking photos and filming all of this, to where Namil is turning these people like, why are you filming this? So it's very funny, in my opinion, this whole scene. So here's where we go off in the distance to have a certain person who is going on and stating that that someone had parked their car in the wrong spot, and the person comes like, oh yeah, I'm the person who had this car, and like they just get out of frame, and I'm just like, seriously, we're focusing on this. But I thought it was, again, just to try to add to the comedy, I think, here. So we have Namju that goes on and talks with Park about the picture and they all of a sudden notice that that Kong Du is to have fallen asleep, and Emil is like, seriously, you're falling asleep at this time? We see Kong Du fall asleep freaking everywhere, and so this guy just sleeps all the time, and eventually Park makes sense of it later, how like when Kong Du was younger, like how he like legitimately didn't eat all that much as a youth. So maybe that is to logically be the reason why he is to go on and be quite so tired now. There's to be not much sense of it, but they say that in the film. So Kongdu goes on and he grabs his own junk and he's like he's touching it and adjusting it, so the whole entire family just kind of turns off to the side and like, come on, man. So we all of a sudden have a guy in a hazmat suit and he makes his way into this memorial spot. I'm assuming it's some kind of gymnasium somewhere because of the basketball hoops that are around this area. So the hazmat man comes in and immediately slips on like some kind of invisible banana peel because he falls on his ass. So we go on to have the man with this radio, and he wants people who were around the Hans River to raise their hands and raise them high, because that is to go on and quite possibly have to have these people be quarantined away from others because they have suspicions that there could be some virus that is to be connected with the monster, which is again a lie. So at some point, this hazmatic man uh, would want to go on and talk about what is happening, but again, he is to be thrusting his way to the TV screen for the television to have this to be explained to them instead of needing to explain things himself. So the next thing we see is Kong Du needing to go into this weird, almost like body bag, and I don't know why. They put him in this yellow body bag, and they have to like zip it up, and they like drag him uh, to a point of quarantine. It's just very weird. So the Park family is all quarantined, and still Kong Du is in this yellow body bag. It's very weird. And so Kong Du just unzips this body bag, and so we have at a point here where like a doctor is to find out about Kong Du and is to tell him like, hey, you're going to need to be experimented on soon, so don't go on and eat anything. Don't eat anything at all. Nothing whatsoever. So I gotta laugh at that. I don't know why, but I just did. So what ends up happening here is that Kong Du is kind of just looking around and he opens up this can of, I don't know what it is. Is it sardines? Is it? I have no idea what exactly this is. It's very fishy looking here. And so Kong Du had mentioned that like his back was really itchy, and then later he goes on and he says that he's really tired and he thinks that that probably has something to do with the virus. In my opinion, like I feel that a lot of people's backs are just itchy. Like my back sometimes is itchy. Like uh, people in my family, itchy backs. We don't know why it is. It's just itchy backs. So it's just like it has nothing to do with the virus, oddly enough. But uh, so Kongdu goes on and eats this and then scratches his back, and then all of a sudden he, even though he's in this medical gown, he has his phone with him, and coincidentally, the person on the other line of the phone is his daughter, and like we kind of get in and out, just things here and there, of what she's saying. And so here's where the Park family realizes that Kong Doo's daughter is still alive here, Han Se Ho. So the next thing we end up doing here is we see some hazmat guys that are driving by this location, and then all of a sudden there's this one person that goes on to stop the car to get out of it, because weirdly enough, in this just weirdly shadowed area that would make no sense for someone to go on and spot something so easily, but this guy bizarrely does. He goes on and notices that there's a dollar on the ground. How this guy would notice this, I have no idea. But so, out of the darkness, this guy grabs this dollar. It's like, hey, I found a dollar. And all of a sudden, come flying out of nowhere comes a Guamole to thrust into this one hazmat guy. And then the Guamole is to flop onto this truck. And so we just have to assume that the Guamole had gone on to kill these hazmatic men here. So the next thing we start to see is Hong Seo being plopped into this hole with a number of other people. And so what she ends up doing is she goes on to have this little kind of hole off to the side of this hole. There's even a smaller hole within this hole. So Han Seo goes into this smaller hole to just kind of hang her head, but she starts to go through the people and notices a cell phone, and that's, I guess, where we have to just assume that Hong Seo is getting these cell phones from these dead corpses or whoever she finds within this hole. So, back with the Park family, we have this one officer that is to go on and be talking to the Park family, and at one point we have Park who tries to bribe this security guy that they're talking to, and he's like, hey man, like, I'm not gonna get bribed like that. So like, because they're trying to go on and they're trying to get answers here, and Namil is stating that that since Kong Do is a state that that his daughter had called him last night and she's not dead, then Namil is to say, well, hey, can't you just track the number? And this officer, this security guard, I'm assuming it's police officer. Let's go with that. This police officer is to say, like, do you think that we do that for everybody? Like, do you think that we just track the phones for everybody? Like, no. So, and here's where they go on and they bribe this person. Is like, no, I'm not going to take this bribe. So here's where we have Kong Do, and so he's telling this police officer, he's telling him, hey, like, this is what had happened to my daughter. So he shows this cell phone, and he goes on to, he takes his cell phone, like, this is my daughter, and me, I'm the monster. And so he goes on and he takes the whole cell phone and puts it in his mouth. My cell phone is a little bit too large, so I'm not going to be able to accomplish that, or I'd break my jaw. So, because even trying it now, I'm like, yeah, it's not going to work. So, Kong Do ends up putting this whole cell phone in his mouth, and he's like, see, this is what the monster does. And then Kong Do is to spit out the cell phone into this trash. And so it's like, okay, whatever that meant. So eventually what transpires here is that the Kong Do family decide to try and escape this facility. And while fleeing this facility, they go on and they find some kind of van-like Uber, it seems. So they all make their way into this van, seemingly with back to their street clothes, and they escape. So we have Park that is to talk to these certain men, and is to supposedly give up his life savings, which is seemingly $500. I guess that's his life savings. To, well, I guess considering like this world has gone to crap, so maybe $500 is whatever he just had left on him, because there is no way to probably get to a bank or a whatever, because everything is down. Who knows? Anyways, so Park is to pay these shady people $500 for a certain number of things. So he ends up getting shotguns out of the deal. He ends up getting like these certain pieces of clothing. He ends up getting these maps that are to show where the sewers are and just a number of things. So the Park family gets into this van after they've made and orchestrated this deal. So come to find out, the Park family is to have a TV in their van, and they go to find that this family is wanted. They're on the news, and so like, oh my god, we're famous. There's also at some point, like uh, some person who is going on to make a statement through the news, and bizarrely, like the way that the camera position is, it's bizarrely just show like this person's legs, and like that their hands are over their leg. It's very weird, very like shady-ish to but I guess it was like a very private conversation that somebody just still got a camera from, I guess. But anyways, so the father part makes his way back into the van, and so they drive off. So they make their way through this seemingly roadblock like area. Nobody goes on and ends up having them roll down the window or have a bit of conversation with them or anything. They just look at them and are like, oh, and they just continue to just let them just continue on without any question or anything. Even the people in the van are going on like, why didn't they stop us or anything? Why was this so easy? So at one point there is someone that does go on and stop them and does, I think, recognize them. Uh, but Park ends up handing this person this bowl of change, and so I guess that is some kind of weird bribe. So what ends up happening here is the Park family makes this way down this sewer drain, and they're trying to find this girl, and it seems that they're not going on and quite finding her. So they all get back in the car, and Kong Ju is seemingly, or Kong Ju, Kong Du is seemingly like walking behind the car, and he's just kind of behind the smoke of it for some reason, I guess, to try and hope that maybe he can clean the virus off of him if he has smoke like just blasting in his face. Don't quite get it. So as they make their way through this tunnel here to get to the sewer, what happens is that they go in here to eventually find one of the monsters. They don't notice it at first, but then there seems to be some dropping of liquid that is becoming from the sky. So they look up, they fire the shotgun, and so the monster comes flying down. So we transition to have some man with a kid with him. And they're off to the side, kind of watching what these people are doing. And come to find out, the kid in the hoodie will eventually go on to be valuable uh, later on in the film, because at some point the Gomol will capture this kid and will keep it with Hong Se-yo, and eventually the kid will be kind of seen towards more of the well, he'll be used through a good chunk of the rest of this film, but eventually, like, we'll see him prominently used by the end of this movie when people eat. So both father and son here go on to make their way to finding this place that has a lot of food. And so the father tells the son uh, that they shouldn't take certain things. They should only take food or beverage or whatever. And the kid is like, well, yeah, we're kind of stealing. And the father is like, well, no, we're just Robin Hood right now. You know what Robin Hood is? And the kid is like, well, not really. He's like, oh, you don't know what Robin Hood is? Like, stealing from the rich to give the poor, kind of, but like, he doesn't exactly explain it. But yeah, so they're, I guess, stealing bizarrely in a good way, but it's still stealing, technically, morally. But the world has gone to, so it doesn't really matter. So back with the Park family. No, oh wait, um, no, sticking uh, with the son and the father here. So we have at one point where the Gomol, it drops down, chases after the son and the father, and we have to go on uh, and see that they have gotten uh, at some point taken here. So the next thing we see is supposedly the whole Park family, and they have found that same snack spot that the father and son had gotten to before. Here's the thing that I didn't quite understand what was going on here. So all of a sudden, just out of frame, Han Se-yo, or just all of a sudden out of nowhere, Han Se-yo comes out of frame and she starts eating all of this food. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? We have to assess or assume that Han Se-yo is just imagining this in her brain of like, man, I want to come back and be with my family so that we can just eat all this food because I'm hungry. Because she hasn't eaten a number of days at this goddamn point. So Hong Se-yo is realizing that the monster has come back, so she has to play kind of dead here as the monster just kind of makes its way through these people. So here's where the monster drops off the kid from the father and son duo. So the Park family are all eating, and they're seemingly still at this spot that Hong Se-yo had bizarrely been dreaming about or been fantasizing about, or some weird goofy thing that they were doing in this movie. And so they notice that Kong Du has fallen asleep again. So here is where Namil and Park are having this bit of conversation about how Kong Du had gone on to lose his mother, and eventually eating less and less and less had eventually had made Kong Du over the years just very tired and this and that. So we have to go on and really have Kong Du, for all of his stupidity and all of his mistakes and everything like that, we have to just forgive him because he's had a really hard life. So Kong Du and the family go on, and so Kong Du wakes up because he notices a sound outside. They notice the Guomol monster, so one of the people to go on and get a shotgun and as soon as the monster seems to be coming nearby them, they fire a shot off. So the monster goes on to run up to uh, this little snack trailer that these people are in, and he topples it over. The Park family run out of this trailer and they start to run away from this monster. So they try as much as they can to fire off rounds, but they're really just running at this point. So but they want to go on and they want to kill this monster. That's the whole crux of everything. So we also have Namju that is to be shooting off arrows as well. So eventually, what ends up transpiring here is there's only so many people with only so many shotgun shells left, and Park is asking if anyone has shots left, uh, and Kong Du says that he has one round left. So Park takes this shotgun from him. It's like, hey, you guys get out of here, and I'll try to kill this monster. So as Park turns, he then is to want to get this monster as close to him as he can, so he can fire off this round. Come to find out, Park fires the shotgun and it clicks and there's no rounds in it. So Kongdu is now doing the math and he's like, oh, I completely forgot or miscounted or whatever. So now we just have Park who is to just turn to the rest of the family. He kind of goes like this or something like that. Like, hey, go on and go. Like, I'm freaking dead. So the monster rams into Park, killing him as he falls over. And so now the Park family have no rounds, it seems. So they're just like, well, what are we going to freaking do now? So what ends up happening is that the military goes on to find the Parks as the monster ends up splooshing back into the water. So there is a hazmat person that grabs Kung Du and puts a biohazard bag over his face, and there's a bunch of gas matted guys uh, putting guns on Park. So I think Kong Du is the only one that gets away here. All the rest of the family, we just find them just scattered in places, trying to look to where their family member can go on and be, Hong Seo. So there's a bunch of bit of news coverage here, and there's a bunch of people all in masks, like medical masks, and there's to be one person that goes on and sneezes, and a bunch of other people to freak out, and then all of a sudden we see uh, this car come careening by, um, and hitting these people with water, and they all freak out. So the next thing we see is Namil. Namil is on this bus. So he finds this piece of paper that has a warrant for his family's arrest. So Namil pulls this bit of paper, and so this is where he finds that his brother is captured and that his father is deceased, if he didn't already know that already. So Namil bumps into a cohort of his that the two of them are to go on and try to track down the phone number of Han Seo. So the two of them make their way into this office, and the cohort that is with Namil, he's going to double cross him. Because it seems that this cohort is to want the bounty of this guy and hope that there's kind of money or something in it. So what happens is that this guy is looking for some password, Namil's cohort. And so as he goes off in the other room, Namil finds this post-it note, puts it into the computer, and finds that he can go on and get into this computer and find this answer. So what ends up happening here is there's a bunch of people all coming to get Namil here, or Namil. And so what he goes on and does, he takes his paper clip and puts it into this outlet, and it shorts it, and the power goes out for the floor. The people all are trying to find out where exactly he is. They spot him, they chase after him, but they do not end up getting to him. So, because what we find out what he does is that he finds his way onto this kind of spot where he's to kind of hold on and hide and go underneath this one bridge, and to eventually try and text one of his family members, but I think he also passes out because of how tired he is. Then we find Namju. Namju, it seems, is hiding out within this bridge. Like, she is going on and she's like hiding underneath this one spot of this bridge, this little hole, and she goes on to receive a text from Namil. So, as she needs to go on and recharge her phone. So, she goes on to make her way into this sewer-like area, and is to try and find Hanseo. So, here is where we have Kong Du here. So Kong Du is with all of these medical doctors in this very medical-esh like area, and they're wanting to go on and take his blood because he has the virus, and they're really at this point going on and assessing that they're thinking that the virus is within his brain, and they're going to have to drill into his brain to try to get the virus out. But then again, we have this U.S. doctor that turns to this other doctor, is like, hey, you want me to tell you something that's the truth? And the doctor's like, sure. And he says, yeah, there is no virus. It's like, wait a minute, what? So this guy just went on and was telling these doctors to drill into this guy's head, but then he tells this doctor, hey, yeah, there is no virus. Ha ha ha, right? So Kong Du is going in to get his head drilled into, and so that whole procedure does happen. So now we have Hong Se-yo. Hong Se-yo is now in her hole, speaking to the kid that she, of course, is befriending here. And so the two of them have gone without food for a number of days at this point, that they're just thinking about all the food that they could eventually go on and have. And Hong Se-yo is saying, like, well, yeah, like, my family, like, they're gonna go on and have such a large amount of food that, like, that you can eat whatever you want. Like, just imagine whatever you want to eat, and we'll have it. And so this kid with Han Se-yo just starts rattling off all this food, and Han Se-yo is like, yeah, like, we're gonna have all of that. So Hong Se-yo goes on and collectively takes all the clothes from all the dead corpse people, and she ties it together, and she finds this metal piece, and she's like, okay, we're gonna just throw this piece like onto the top uh of this area, and we're gonna try to climb out of here. And so Hong Se-yo tries to throw this thing. I think she misses here, and the monster comes down and starts dropping off people, and also dropping off a number of bones that the monster vomits up here. So they go on to take blood from Kong Du, and so at this point, Kong Du is to realize that like he's gonna die the longer he's here. So Kong Du grabs one of the doctors, takes this needle, and says, like, hey man, don't mess with me. I have the virus. Like, don't let me inject her. I'll inject all of you. He starts to spray some of the virus out of this needle and tries to further and further get his way out of this place that he's in to see it via open through these doors. And so he grabs this ambulance and he escapes. So Namil ends up waking up next to this hobo, and so Namil goes on and is to take this bag from this homeless person, and he sees all this alcohol, so he grabs it from him, and he's like, "All right, like I'm gonna go on and I'm gonna take this stuff from you. Here's some money." And the guy breaks a bottle over Namil's head, and it's like, "No, no, no! Like you and me, we're gonna go together. We're gonna do this. Whatever you're doing, we're gonna do it together." So what we see next is like Namil and this homeless person are driving in this Uber, and they're putting together these Molotov cocktails. So, and the whole time the Uber guy is like, "Hey, what are you guys doing back there?" Like, so the next thing we see is Kong Du finding where this sewer thing is, and is trying to figure out where Hong Se Yo is. So Hong Se-yo realizes that there is a monster that is to be very next to her within this hole. So Hong Se-yo tosses this rope of clothing and makes it to where it seems that she can be able to get up this rope of clothing. So, but the only problem is that the rope of clothing isn't high enough. So Hong Se-yo sees that she has to run up this body of this monster to then jump onto this cloth to then climb up. So, what happens here is that the girl starts to want to try and climb up this cloth, but the monster with its tail grabs her and brings her back down. So, there is bizarrely this yellow spider on Hong Se-yo's arm. Don't quite get why. So, I think here's a spot where the monster tries to go after them, and then they hide in the hole as the monster is to try to protrude its head into getting to them. But things don't quite pan out for the monster to get to them. So Hung Du ends up finding the hole and just finds a load of bones there. So he is almost tempted to climb down, but realizes that there's not enough rope there for him to go on and actually do so. So back with Namju. Namju is to go on and find the monster and to start to use her arrows to fire into it. So we have this protest going on here, and it has Kong Du shirts on it, and like I think they're saying like "Free Kong Du," like they're having a protest about about Kong Du and what's going on here, because of course he's captured. So we have this riot going on between between the SWAT teams and these Kong Du protest people. So so what ends up transpiring here, and this is kind of towards the end of the film, thank goodness. Only an hour and change this one. Wow. What a relief it is. Whew, yeah. For once, this isn't a 3-hour endeavor. Thank God we are almost done with this. Wow. I am so happy. You have no idea. Normally all of these would take like freaking like 3 hours or 4 hours to do one video, and it would be like from like an hour or 2 hour movie. Like I'm ahead of the curve right now. Woohoo! Yeah. Thank goodness. Maybe this will be a sign of maybe I will go on and either find just easier bits of content, or logically, maybe this is just a sign that I'll finally get some stuff that seems to be easier to review. But I highly doubt it. Maybe it's just because of this one, because I don't have the exact bit of things of how I would normally go about this. This is just unique, beautiful snowflake from past things that I've gone on and done. I've really had to recount everything in this one compared to other things in the past. That's why it's slightly tweakingly different than any of the other things that I've done. Anyways, so, or maybe this movie is just bizarrely easier. Moving on. So, as these protesters and these SWAT team esh like riot guard people, riot guards? Let's do that. Riot guards. That sounds better. We come to find that the Gomol is making its way to this protest because it is to go on and be nearby. Kong Du is to realize that both his daughter and probably the other kid are to go on and be obtained within this monster. So Kong Du does not want any harm to come to this monster, so he can hope that he can figure out how to get his daughter with. He's trying to figure out a way to pull his daughter out of this monster before it has the monster consume her. So this poisonous gas gets unleashed onto this protest because of the monster being nearby. So what ends up happening is Kong Du ends up going on to find the monster flopped down, and so Kong Du ends up pulling out his daughter and this other kid, and I believe that Han Se-yo is possibly dead. I would assume, because by the end of this movie, we're just going on and seeing Kong Du and the younger kid who is still alive eating dinner together, and that's how the movie just ends. That he just adopts the kid, and that's how the movie ends, with just them eating a meal, and that's how they finish up the film. So the rest of the Park family, they all meet together, and we also have these scientists that are going on with a camcorder recording all of this. As some people are vomiting, and some people are getting sick, they're bleeding from the ear. It is what it is. So the Park family all hug here, and so there seems to be a Gomol monster that is still at large here, so they have to figure out a way to kill it. So what they do here is that Namil is to go on and start throwing his Molotovs. And we also have Kong Du, who has this metal item, this metal rod. And so Uh, we also have Namju that is bow and arrowing at some point this monster. But so, but what really happens here is at some point the homeless man has this container of gasoline, pouring it over the monster, and so Namil starts running out of these Molotov cocktails because he has thrown so many of them at this point. And so Namju ends up going on and taking one of her arrows and getting whatever is left of the Molotov cocktail residue on the ground, takes a piece of it, puts a bit of flame arrow uh, uh, to her bow here, fires it off, and so the monster is to go on and be lit on fire here because of all the gasoline poured all over this monster. So as the monster starts jostling through the town here, the final blow is to occur with Kong Du, who takes this metal rod, jabs it into the monster's mouth, and it falls over and dies. So the last thing we end up seeing is Kong Du, and he's at this snack shop, and both him and his, I guess, adopted son are going on and eating here, and they're watching the television. They turn the television off, and the movie ends. With that said, I'm gonna get the heck out of here so I can go on and put this up as a review. Maybe I will go on and have the ability to make another video today for how short this surprisingly was. Maybe people will actually be more open to actually watch this review for how surprisingly short it is. Let me know in the comments below whatever you'd like to talk about this movie or others, because that'll go on and help out the comment section. If you decided to check out this whole entire video, I appreciate it, but hey, at the end of the day, I can quite understand that this is just describing the move for move 1-2-1-2 of every bit of what happens in this film, and really I didn't have any side notes about this one because nothing came to mind. So otherwise, it's about that time to just get the heck out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye, everybody.